Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. First episode, here it is. All right. Today, I decided to discuss self discipline because it's helped me a lot. And as a kid, I didn't have much of it. School doesn't teach you much about it. I don't even know if most people know what the word means. So here I got the definition of it. You already know. I got you covered. My brothers and sisters, I got you covered. Self discipline. The exact definition on Google. The ability to control one's feelings and overcomes one's weaknesses. The ability to pursue what one thinks is right despite temptations to abandon it. With that being said, um, makes me think of all the pleasure we have around us. We got our phones, plenty of food, plenty of drinks, plenty of drugs, if that's what you partake in. I'm not judging. I'm not judging. Do what you got to do. But self discipline, basically, to me, means the ability to control your mind rather than your mind controlling you. Because a lot of our society is run by the mind. People don't have control over themselves, and they think their thoughts run them, and they think their actions run them. But you could take control and you can run your shit, and you could take control of this shit. I mean, I wasn't always this skinny, I was fat as fuck, but I took control. Not by myself. There's a lot of influential people that helped me, like David Goggins, Joe Rogan. There's a lot of plenty of people. I'm not gonna name them all, but those are two most influential to me because they helped me a lot throughout this fucking journey. Um, but so basically, how do we get self discipline, and what can it help us do? I mean, self discipline. It's as simple as you're laying in bed, your thoughts are telling you, "Don't get up, don't get up. The bed's comfortable. You don't want to leave the bed. It's warm. Why would you get out of bed?" And you get out of bed anyway. And that's a small way to build discipline. Every single time you get up and you fight that urge to stay in bed, you are creating self-discipline within yourself. Now, what that's one of the simplest ways, or another simple way, you see snacks and you say no to them this time. Instead, every time you say yes, this time you say no. I don't want that snack because it hurts my stomach or makes me bigger. I don't want to be bigger. That's self-discipline. You need discipline because this world we live in is full of pleasure. Our dopamine circuits in our brain, which is most people think it's the pleasure chemical, which it can help you experience pleasure, but it's more of a motivation chemical. That's why if you are depressed, then you can experience pleasure, but you don't want to go get that pleasure. You'd rather have that pleasure brought to you, right? So our dopamine circuits, most people, I should probably say, most people think that we're not animals anymore. And that's the common misconception around here. We look at our dogs and our cats and animals outside, birds, bunnies, whatever you see, and you're like, I'm separate from that. And I'm above that because I am a human being. That's bullshit. Everything had changed around us within the last 100 years. We're still animals. Everything that our ancestors had 100,000 years ago, we still have that today. It's still in here. Our survival mechanisms, fight or flight, dopamine circuits, all this shit in our brains is still the same thing that humans in the past had. And it's not, we haven't grown very much in our brains, and we don't really know how our brains work, but that's a conversation for another time. So, what did our dopamine circuits evolve for? You need to be motivated to reproduce, to get food, get water, things like that. Our dopamine circuits weren't made for addiction. It just so happens that we've got everything around us now: food, water, phones, sex, drugs, money. And that's what our dopamine goes for now because we're adapting animals. And if we lose our ability to adapt, that's how we fall deep down the hole because we won't come back. That's the only reason we made it this far. It's because we have our ability to adapt and overcome any obstacle that's been thrown in our face. So, how does dopamine circuit lead to addiction then? So, let's say you go and experience something. Maybe it's sex for the first time. Maybe it's drugs for the first time. Maybe it's your phone for the first time. That gives you a pretty significant hit of dopamine. And you're like, ooh, I like that. But what you don't know is our dopamine circuit is, I should say, we have a pleasure pain balance. So if you're experiencing pleasure, you're also experiencing pain right after. Our pleasure and pain, they're not separate. In our brains, they're quite literally on the same circuits. And so if you experience pleasure, it might not feel like pain to you at the time because the pain starts off as just a seeking, like you seek more of that, whatever that dopamine hit was. So if it was sex, you're gonna look for more sex. If it was drugs, you're gonna look for more drugs. And that seeking is that's that pain first. But then as you start to lean into that stuff more, that pleasure pain balance gets off balance and it starts leading towards pain. And then all you feel is pain. And that's where addiction comes from because you're still chasing that high that you got that first time. But now it's all pain and you're not getting any of that high. But you can't stop doing it because you want that experience again. You want it back. You want to feel good again. And we've all been there. We've all been in that position to where you want that feeling back that you used to have. But unfortunately, the past doesn't come back. And we're always changing. We're constantly changing. If you're not changing and you think you're staying the same, well, then you're probably not improving and you're probably sliding in the other direction. I ain't talking crap. That ain't me. I ain't talking crap. But it's more than likely happening. And so, with that pleasure pain circuit and the addiction in mind, that is why a lot of people are addicted to their phones, addicted to drugs, addicted to whatever you can get in this society, food. That's why America has so many obese people because our brains aren't suited for this stuff and our society is so comfortable. Like we've got everything we need. What do we need to survive for anymore? We've got food, we've got water. We just go to the grocery store, man. Like, well, I don't need to hunt, I'll just go to the grocery store. I don't want to get out of bed, I'll just look through my phone because it's the same as walking through outside to our brains because you're just scrolling. And the only time you've gotten that kind of scenery, seeing stuff that fast, well, you never really saw it that fast in the past, but the only time you would see it is when you would be walking outside and you'd be coming across different landscapes and you'd be coming across maybe different animals, stuff like that. But now on our phones, we scroll through it all in 5 minutes, and that depletes our dopamine circuits too. Makes us feel unmotivated. It makes a lot of us depressed. And that's a conversation for another episode. I want to get to that, but I had to research it because I do know a little bit, but I've realized this past few days that I don't know much because depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD, those are some very in topic, or not in topic, but in depth. And oh my God, I can't talk. In depth topics that I want to cover and I want to talk about, even though I don't have the license or the degrees to talk about that kind of stuff. I've been learning about it so I could talk about it from neuroscientists and stuff like that. So, where am I going? We are going to talk about self discipline now because you know about all that. That was important to get through because now that you know we're too comfortable, that's why we're getting depressed. You can know how to get that discipline to not be depressed and to be happy. And obviously, it's going to take a lot more than just one thing because there's no silver bullet. There's no one pill. There's no one thing you can ever do to make you happy. It's a whole host of doing a bunch of shit you got to just continue to do. And every day you got to wake up like it's a new day, new life, basically, because you can think about what you've done in the past when you're on that grind and you're thinking about, oh, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. And then you got to reach into that cookie jar, like David Goggins says. You got to look at your past experiences, what you've done, and be like, I still got more. I still got more in me. I don't need to stop. But the way you build discipline, and most people aren't going to like this, but it's just how it is. You got to seek discomfort. And that's the only way to do it. Whether that be getting out of bed when you didn't want to, avoiding that snack when you didn't want to. The way I found discipline to be built the most is hard cardio. Because when you're running, especially on a treadmill with no scenery, all you have is your mind. And yeah, that sounds scary to some people because they don't want to be in their minds. That's another issue. We try to avoid all of our thoughts and our emotions, and we try to suppress them with our phones and alcohol and nicotine. You could suppress your feelings and thoughts with anything. I mean, it doesn't just have to be drugs. Just scrolling, oh, I'm finding new stuff. Just get rid of this thought. It doesn't work. Trust me. I've tried to escape my brain for a long time. That motherfucker never shuts up and it never stops. So you might as well just start beating that motherfucker up and showing him who's boss. And so hard cardio is a very good way to do that kind of stuff because it's just you and your thoughts and you're running and your brain's like, please stop. You're killing me. Your body doesn't know what's going on. But you just gotta that's the best part about being human. We got this big prefrontal cortex here, the decision making part of the brain. And when our brain tells us to stop, our animal instincts be like, oh, don't do that. You gotta just be like, we're doing it, motherfucker. We're doing it. And you just keep pushing through. And you just gotta keep fighting your brain. It's like that's all life is. I'm gonna be honest. Life is not easy. And life is basically like running. It's just you against your mind. You gotta show that motherfucker. You got to beat him up every single day because if you don't, that motherfucker's sneaky. He'll take over. He still takes me over to this day. And I've been trying my hardest for like 3 years now to fucking build discipline, build knowledge. And it doesn't, that's the thing. The more knowledge you build, the better your excuses get. And guess what? Nobody knows you better than your own mind. That motherfucker is sneaky. He'll give you, oh, it's okay. You don't got to do this today. You can be comfortable. Lay in bed. It's all right. Why would you need to do this today when you got tomorrow? And then tomorrow comes and you're like, I got the next day. And then you go next day and you're like, oh man, it's been a week and I still haven't got that shit done because you got to be able to have the discipline to do uncomfortable things. Because if you don't have the discipline to do uncomfortable things, you're not going to make it. I'm sorry. It's just that simple. And that's just how it's going to have to be because there's so much comfort around us. We don't have to worry about anything. We don't have to worry about the cold, which side tangent. Cold is another way to build discipline. Cold, being out in the cold, your mind's telling you, get the hell out of here, bro. You can go inside and get warm. The warmth is right there inside. But if you stick that out, even just for 5, 10 minutes, and then the next time you do 15 minutes, and then the next time it's 20, and that builds that discipline for other things. Life, our parts of our life are not separate. Most people think they're separate. You come in here and you're going to school, and then you come home, and then you watch TV. No, it's all one continuous long line of things you've done, and it all prepares you for the next stuff. I mean, I gotta believe God has a plan, whatever you want to call it, the God, goddess, the divine spirit, the invisible spirit. Who knows? God is a very tainted word, but I think there's some kind of energy out there. There's something. I know that for sure. Well, I don't know it for sure until I die, and I shouldn't say I know it for sure, but I know. I feel it. I feel it. We're spiritual beings, whether we want to admit it or not. If we don't believe in that kind of thing, we feel empty, or at least I did. I felt super empty. But so we come inside, and I forgot what I was talking about. Damn, it's that easy to forget what you're talking about. We were talking about the cold and how it builds discipline because, oh yeah, we're so comfortable. We don't have to worry about the heat. We don't have to worry about the cold. We don't got to worry about anything. You just come inside. And then you got your snacks in here. You got your water in here, your pop, whatever the fuck you want to drink. And you're like, oh man, I don't got to do shit today now. And it's getting so bad that people don't even want to work anymore, which I can understand because I don't like to work either. It sucks. Nobody wants to go there, listen to some dick tell you what to do all the time. And then you're like, oh my God, I just want to be home. But that's where that discipline comes in. And you need that discipline because if you don't have that discipline, you're going to quit every single time and you're not going to succeed at what you want to do because you need it. Most people don't look at this anymore because we don't get taught this in school. We need mental strength. We just get taught what to think, not how to think. We don't get to taught how to use these minds of ours, and which you can't really get taught by anybody else how to use your mind because there's no instruction manual for being you. You are you. Nobody else has been you on the history of this planet. Maybe they've gone through the same experiences or different ones that are similar, but they've never been you. So, how the hell is somebody else supposed to teach you about who you're supposed to be? You got to figure that out for yourself. That takes discipline, some very rigorous self awareness to know when you are wrong and when you've been doing people wrong. And you got to look at yourself and be like, oh man. And sometimes that's where that pain comes in. You're like, oh man, that does not feel good that I've been treating people like that. But then you use that pain, use it as fuel, and use it, pick yourself up. And it's easier said than done, obviously, but you pick yourself up and you get after it. That's all you can do. You have to get after it because if you don't get after it, your mind's going to win. And you don't want your mind to win because that motherfucker is strong. And once you're in that perspective of, oh, the world sucks and it's not going to get better, it's hard to get out of. It is very hard because it's not just that you're sad or that you're unmotivated. It's a whole perspective shift, and everything that comes at you looks like it's going to be the end of the world. Oh, my keys fell off. Oh my God. And then you just fucking flip the table because you're mad your keys fell off. Like, come on, man. It's just keys falling off. But no, not to you. That's the end of the fucking world. That's why you got to have that discipline. You got to do uncomfortable things because there's way too much pleasure. We Our brains aren't built for this kind of stuff. Like I said, we're our hunter gatherer ancestors. They were designed to go and hunt and be with their family and talk to people in person and love. But we don't do that anymore. We're so isolated from everybody. Once you're out of school, you barely see anybody anymore. Maybe your coworkers for a few hours a day, maybe your parents sometimes, maybe your significant other, whatever you may like. I ain't judging. Do what you got to do. But like we don't have a community structure, we don't have anything. That's another reason we're so down in this society. We don't have anybody to talk to. And then when we do talk to people, it's on this motherfucker. Jesus Christ, I broke it almost. But we don't need to be talking on that fucker because it's so unnatural. There's no facial cues. You go see? You've seen that. You can't see that on the text. And then that's why we're all so angry on the phone because you go and you're texting and texting. You're like, why the fuck did they say it like that? Do they not like me? Am I being a dick? And then you get all angry and heated or anxious and scared. And then you got to go and fucking scream at the other person or be like, why don't you like me anymore? Because there's no facial cues. You don't hear the inflection in their voice. You don't know what they're thinking because you can't elaborate because you're already overthinking. There's no body cues. It is one of the most unnatural ways to communicate. So, with all that being said, and me making a damn fool of myself, for your entertainment, of course, so it's not for nothing, I will recover what I was talking about in a summary, I guess. The pleasure pain balance, seeking discomfort, doing things you don't want to do. But I also talk about how motivation, this isn't my line, this is David Goggins as well. Motivation is shit. Because motivation comes and goes like a goddamn fart. You fucking feel it in your stomach, and then you fart and it's gone for good. That is how motivation works. You got to be driven. You got to be so obsessed with whatever you're trying to accomplish that people think you're fucking nuts. People think you're insane. And that's how driven you have to be. Don't just make it motivating or motivate yourself every day. You got to make it so it's your goddamn lifestyle. You got to seek discomfort every day, whether it be going to the store when you don't like to, or picking up your room when you don't want to. There's so many ways to build discipline. Talking to people if you're socially uncomfortable. You have to do this stuff because being uncomfortable doesn't just build discipline, it is the only way to grow in this society. There is nowhere else to grow. Nowhere else to go, nowhere else to grow. Damn, I should be a rapper. All right. But yeah, it's the only way to improve. How are you going to improve? Whether it be your physical body through exercise, that shit is not comfortable. I'll be the first one to tell you that. I don't like doing it. I still don't like doing it. Yeah, I'm fit, but I don't like doing it. I hate it. I'm still a fat kid on the inside. I want to fucking sit down and I want to eat a bunch of fucking ho-hos and Snickers and Twix and just gorge myself, but I can't because I know it'll make me feel like shit and it'll make me unhappy and I want to be happy. But you got to do these uncomfortable things. There's science proving ice baths and ice showers, just doing it a little 5 minutes in the shower. But trust me, that does not feel like 5 minutes. It feels like fucking 20. 5 minutes quickly turns into 20 minutes when you're fucking sitting in the cold shower. Trust me, that is not nice. That's it. It's the only way to live life. I'm sorry. You got to be uncomfortable. Whether we already went over all of it. I mean, you just got to be uncomfortable. There's no other way to live. Because if you upset that pleasure pain balance, you're gonna be depressed. And it's so quickly to deplete your dopamine system in this society. There's pleasure everywhere. Whether it be laying on the bed, eating some good food, going to hang out with some friends, scrolling through TikTok all goddamn day. There's pleasure everywhere, around every corner. It's around every single corner you look. And we're pleasure monkeys. In my eyes, we're pleasure monkeys. We love it. We love pleasure. If you go through too much pleasure without the right discipline, like I used to, I was impulsive as a kid. I was not anywhere near to as disciplined as I am now. I could not control myself. I would pick up any kind of food. I'd throw sugar on everything. I'd do a bunch of bullshit to my body and my mind. I'd probably traumatize myself a lot of the time. But you gotta learn to put it down. Just learn to put it down. You don't got to give anything up completely. If you love doing something, don't give it up completely unless you're like an addict and you can't handle yourself if you just try one time. But if you can handle yourself and you just overindulge, all you got to do is build some discipline. And then you can do it as much as you want. I mean, not as much as you want because you got to have discipline, but you could do it still. You don't have to give anything up completely. With all that being done and well, and hopefully I educated somebody, one person at least. Oh yeah, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who subscribed and everybody who watched my last video. It did a lot better than I thought it would, and I appreciate every single one of you. And you guys are all beautiful. I love every single one of you. I got a quote I'm gonna read. You know what? I'll tell you one of Goggins's books too. Well, I'll just tell you both of his books because I remember them by heart. So his first book is Can't Hurt Me. Tells about his life story and how he came from a 300-pound fat dude spraying for cockroaches, and then he was a Navy SEAL, ultra marathon runner, and his story is insane. Like that man, I don't know how he does what he does. I still don't know how he does what he does. He's still going hard at like 50 years old too. He's insane. And then the next one's called Never Finished, and that one is a fantastic book. It is just amazing. I mean, the accomplishments that man's just done throughout his life are just truly mind-boggling to any human being. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I couldn't do what he did. I can't lie. I'm not gonna do what he did. He destroyed his mind and body just to fucking unlock parts of his brain that nobody else had. As I said before, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Please watch this whole video. Although this is at the end, so if you didn't watch the whole video, you ain't seen this part, I guess. But I'm going to read this quote to finish us off, as I do. Denial is the ultimate comfort zone. The most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you have with yourself. Pain unlocks a secret doorway in the mind, one that leads to both peak performance and beautiful silence. Don't stop when you're tired. Stop when you're finished. Have a great day.